You need to stop. Well, hey.
The internet is on fire right now, and it's all because of a shocking feud between two of the biggest names in music, Nicki Minaj and Sza. What started as a simple tweet quickly spiraled into a full-blown war, with social media, old receipts, and even the FBI getting involved. But how did a spiritual tweet about Mercury retrograde become the most talked about drama in hip-hop? Let's break it down. The spark, a simple tweet gone wrong. It all began on July 15, 2025, when Sza, the ethereal R&B queen known for her spiritual musings, posted what seemed like a lighthearted, almost whimsical tweet. Mercury retrograde? Don't take the bait, LOL, silly goose. It was a standard Sza post, full of astrological references and quirky humor, a vibe her followers were all too familiar with. Fans loved her for being grounded, connected to the universe, and always expressing her thoughts with a touch of magic. No big deal, right? But Nicki Minaj saw it differently. In Nicki's eyes, this tweet wasn't just a random astrology post. She interpreted it as a subtle dig at her, especially after the escalating tension with TDE's president, Terrence "Punch" Henderson. Earlier that day, Punch had posted a tweet promoting a song called Broken Barbies by an artist named I Am Lyric, which Nicki, a proud member of the Barbs, could only take as a personal jab. The imagery of broken Barbies was too close for comfort. After all, Nicki has long been associated with the Barbs, and that reference to Barbies felt intentional. So, Nicki fired back, pointing the finger at Punch and claiming, "Lol, y'all remember that man from TDE who kept bullying me on Twitter for no reason? We have the receipts. Lol, I never even responded to him. What was his name again?" But this was just the beginning. With her infamous sharp tongue and wit, Nicki didn't stop at just addressing Punch. She made sure to include "Justice for Diori" in her tweet, a hashtag that left everyone wondering, what was this about? What seemed like a minor Twitter moment quickly escalated into a public feud that would have everyone from fans to industry insiders buzzing for weeks. Nicki strikes, the fury unleashed. After Nicki's initial tweet, the internet was left reeling, but what came next was far more intense than anyone could have predicted. Nicki Minaj, known for her sharp words and unfiltered personality, didn't just stop at calling out Punch. She set her sights on Sza, accusing her of somehow being part of this ongoing drama. In typical Nicki fashion, the attack came swift and brutal. "Go draw your freckles back on, Bookie. Justice for Dimery. Liar, liar, pants on fire." The internet was immediately in shock. Was this really happening? Nicki Minaj, one of the biggest rap stars in the world, was calling out Sza, a rising star in her own right? The tone felt bizarre, almost juvenile, like something out of a schoolyard squabble. But Nicki wasn't done. She continued her relentless assault, making cutting remarks about Sza's appearance, even claiming she sounded like she got stung by a bee. For many, this was an unexpected turn. Sza, known for her calm and serene persona, didn't seem like someone who would ever find herself in a social media war. But Nicki was making it personal, and the public was taking notice. What started as a spat over a promotional tweet now seemed to be a full-blown attack on Sza's character and success. But the real question was, why Sza? What had she done to provoke Nicki's wrath? To outsiders, the timing seemed suspicious. Sza's tweet about Mercury retrograde had nothing to do with Nicki, yet Nicki's reaction painted Sza as an adversary. Was this truly about the tweet, or was it a deeper grudge that had been brewing for years? As Nicki's verbal jabs became more vicious, the music world was left to wonder if this feud was about more than just a simple misunderstanding.
The tables turn. Sza claps back. As the verbal assault from Nicki Minaj continued, many fans waited for Sza to respond, unsure of what kind of comeback she would deliver. Known for her calm and collected nature, Sza was the last person anyone expected to engage in a public war of words. But when pushed too far, Sza did what most would never expect. She dropped receipts. On July 16, 2025, Sza pulled out the ultimate proof. Screenshots of text messages from 2020 showing that Nicki Minaj had reached out to her twice for collaborations. These weren't just casual messages, they were professional requests. Nicki's team had asked Sza to feature on the track, and while Sza had politely declined due to her focus on recording her critically acclaimed album SOS, the fact that Nicki had actively sought her out was a game changer. Sza's response wasn't petty or childish, it was a masterstroke of subtlety and grace. She posted the text exchanges alongside a message that read, "Nicki, you absolutely know my music and what I contribute because you've asked for features twice to no response. Be blessed." This move flipped the narrative completely. What Nicki had painted as a one-sided conflict about relevance and rejection now looked like a case of sour grapes. Not only did Sza prove that Nicki knew her music, but she also reminded everyone that she had co-writing credits on Nicki's hit, Feelin' Myself, contributing the now iconic line, "Cooking up the bass, looking like a kilo." By reminding fans of this credit, Sza cemented her place in the history of one of Nicki's biggest collaborations. The internet went wild. Sza's calm and collected response exposed Nicki's attacks for what they were, personal and unprovoked. And now fans saw Sza not just as a talented artist, but as someone who wasn't afraid to stand her ground. This wasn't just about a tweet, it was about respect, recognition, and the power of truth.
The fight for relevance, Nicki's desperation unleashed. Sza's calm and collected response to Nicki's personal attacks might have shocked many, but it only seemed to fuel Nicki's fire. Instead of stepping back or acknowledging that perhaps she had been wrong, Nicki doubled down. Her next move? To question Sza's entire career and relevance in the music industry. In one of her most inflammatory tweets, Nicki boldly asked, "Wait, does Sza think she's more successful than me? If every song you've ever done disappeared right now, the music business wouldn't even miss you." The tweet was wild for several reasons. First off, Sza's SOS album had shattered records, becoming the longest-charting top 10 album by a black artist on the Billboard 200, a milestone that only a handful of artists, including Michael Jackson, had achieved. Second, Sza was currently co-headlining one of the biggest tours of 2025 with Kendrick Lamar, selling out arenas across Europe. To dismiss Sza's undeniable success felt not only desperate, but completely disconnected from reality. But Nicki wasn't finished. She went further, dredging up old tweets from Sza's early days in the industry, from around 2011, where she had made critical comments about superstars like Beyoncé, Rihanna, and Ciara. These tweets, which were a decade old, were clearly from a time when Sza was still trying to find her voice and carve out a place in the industry. Yet Nicki used them to paint a picture of Sza as bitter, jealous, and inherently spiteful toward women who had made it. What struck fans as strange was how desperate Nicki seemed to be in her attempts to undermine Sza. The tweets felt outdated, and the accusations felt hollow, especially as Sza had grown into a well-respected artist collaborating with the very people she once criticized. Nicki's decision to use decade-old comments from a young artist seemed petty and insecure, especially when Sza had clearly evolved as an artist and as a person. At this point, it was clear. Nicki wasn't just attacking Sza's music, she was attacking her place in the industry, desperately trying to paint her as irrelevant, as if doing so would somehow elevate Nicki's own status. But it wasn't working. Instead, it revealed Nicki's own insecurities, showing how far she was willing to go to tear down someone else's success. The unexpected twist involving Drake, Beyoncé, and the past. Nicki Minaj wasn't done yet. After questioning Sza's success and dredging up old tweets, she decided to bring in other major players into the feud, Drake and Beyoncé. These two figures, both longtime collaborators of Nicki, now became pawns in her quest to discredit Sza. But her decision to involve them only made things more personal and complicated. Nicki's first strike came when she claimed that Drake had originally wanted her to be a part of his 2023 hit Rich Baby Daddy, a track featuring SZA and Sexy Red. Nicki posted, "I wonder if she knows I turned down being on the Shake That for Drake song. He wanted me and Sexy on it. I said I wanted to wait for Pink Friday 2 for me and him to do a Drakey song so it felt more special." This statement was a bold claim, especially considering that Drake and Nicki have had a long and public history of collaborations, with Rich Baby Daddy being one of the biggest tracks of the year. But Nicki wasn't finished. She then took a much cruder turn, adding, "And now that silly goose still out here shaking that for Drake every day after swallowing his balls, allegedly." This comment was about SZA's brief romantic history with Drake from years prior, one that SZA had always described as innocent and nothing more than youthful vibes. Nicki's crudeness was jarring, especially given that the relationship between SZA and Drake had been well behind them for over a decade. However, Nicki's most telling move came when she brought up Beyoncé. She referenced the Feeling Myself collaboration, claiming that both she and Beyoncé had issues with SZA's songwriting contributions to the track. This seemed odd, given that SZA had previously shared that she had co-writing credits on the song, and fans had known her involvement with the iconic track for years. Nicki's suggestion that there were unresolved issues between herself, Beyoncé, and SZA only added more fuel to the fire, suggesting that the problem wasn't just about SZA's success, but about jealousy and competition within the music industry. SZA's calm, the power of silence and success. While Nicki Minaj's attacks grew more personal and petty, SZA remained calm, composed, and focused on what really mattered, her music and her success. Instead of sinking to Nicki's level and engaging in the kind of Twitter warfare that had consumed both of their worlds, SZA chose to rise above it all, letting her work speak for itself. As the drama intensified, SZA's fans and the broader music community were increasingly impressed by how she handled the situation. While Nicki was busy tweeting out her frustrations, SZA was living her best life, embarking on a record-breaking tour with Kendrick Lamar. The SOS album, which had already shattered records by becoming the longest-charting top 10 album by a black artist on the Billboard 200, continued to dominate the charts. Her success was undeniable, and it was clear that she wasn't letting Nicki's words distract her from her goals. SZA's ability to separate herself from the drama was also highlighted when she tweeted, "I get bullied by millions online every day, then step my out on a packed stadium tour where people show me real love in real life." This statement was powerful, not only because it showcased SZA's resilience, but also because it contrasted Nicki's constant online battles with the real-world success SZA was enjoying. While Nicki was entangled in online drama, SZA was receiving genuine in-person love from her fans in sold-out arenas across Europe. The real world was showing her the respect and appreciation that Twitter battles could never provide. At a time when Nicki was making headlines for her bitter online feud, SZA's response was simple, yet profound. Let your success and your truth speak louder than any insult. By continuing her tour and staying grounded in her artistry, SZA showed that there is a level of professionalism and grace that can only come from a place of true confidence. For SZA, the feud wasn't about fighting back with more insults. It was about letting her work define her, and ultimately, her success silenced the noise. While Nicki may have had the platform to spread drama, SZA had something far more powerful: the unwavering support of her fans and the validation of her artistic success. In the end, success became her most powerful weapon. The unraveling, federal involvement, and escalation. Just when it seemed like the Nicki Minaj and Sza feud couldn't get any more absurd, it did. the drama escalated from Twitter rants to something far more serious when a comment from a TDE affiliate, MWP, added fuel to the fire. During a live stream on July 18, 2025, MWP made a remark that would send the feud spiraling into uncharted territory. Nicki, relax. Relax or you get put in the blender like your boy. For most people, getting put in the blender is a term used in battle rap, referring to being lyrically destroyed or humiliated. But Nicki Minaj, already on edge and feeling increasingly threatened by the TDE camp, didn't interpret it as a metaphor. She saw it as a direct threat to her physical safety. Nicki quickly fired back, tagging both the FBI and Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna in her tweet, demanding that MWP be investigated for the alleged threat. This was a massive shift in the dynamic. What had begun as a feud over a tweet about Mercury retrograde and blossomed into a battle of insults, receipts, and industry politics now had real-world consequences. Nicki wasn't just fighting in the court of public opinion. She was taking her complaint to the government. The idea of involving the FBI in a dispute that was rooted in rap battle rhetoric seemed extreme to many. After all, hip-hop has long had its fair share of aggressive language and metaphorical violence. Was this really the line that warranted federal intervention? The involvement of Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican representative from Florida, seemed to be taking sides in a battle that to most was clearly personal. Nicki's decision to escalate the conflict to this level only deepened the divide within the hip-hop world, with many fans and peers criticizing her overblown reaction. At this point, the feud had stopped being about Sza or even about Nicki. It was about the power dynamics within the music industry, the influence of celebrity, and the blurred lines between public drama and legal consequences. The real question was, how far would Nicki go to protect her reputation, and how much further could this drama spiral?
The fallout, a community divided. As the feud continued to unfold, the music industry and fans were forced to confront the harsh realities of celebrity culture, the toxic side of fan bases, and the implications of involving outside forces in what had started as a misunderstanding. While Nicki Minaj remained entrenched in her battle with Sza, many industry insiders, artists, and fans began questioning whether Nicki's escalating attacks were really necessary. What had begun as a simple tweet spiraled into an all-out war, involving not only Sza, but other major figures, social media, and even law enforcement. The deeper the feud went, the more divided the music community became. On one side were Nicki's loyal fans, the Barbs, whose relentless online attacks on Sza seemed to amplify the situation. The Barbs were infamous for their fierce defense of Nicki, but in this case, their actions crossed a line. Reports of harassment, doxing attempts, and coordinated attacks on anyone critical of Nicki's actions came to light, showing just how far fan culture had gone in fueling this feud. The toxic environment created by the Barbs served as a reminder of the dangers of unregulated, obsessive fandoms in the digital age. On the other side were Sza's fans, who rallied around her in solidarity. They pointed out the absurdity of Nicki's attacks, emphasizing that Sza had done nothing wrong except express herself on social media. Sza's fan base defended her decision to focus on her music and career rather than engage in a social media battle, highlighting the maturity and professionalism that Sza consistently displayed. They celebrated her ability to rise above the drama, pointing to her sold-out stadium tours and critical acclaim as proof that Sza's career was thriving regardless of the chaos surrounding her. But beyond the fans, the fallout was also felt within the industry. The feud had exposed deeper issues of rivalries, jealousy, and competition within hip-hop and R&B. Nicki's accusations against Sza, which seemed to be rooted in insecurity, were increasingly seen by Nicki as a way for her to protect her status in a rapidly changing industry. With the rise of new artists like Sza, there was no denying that the landscape was shifting. And Nicki's actions were seen by many as an attempt to hold on to power in a world that was evolving. Industry professionals, radio hosts, and even peers within hip-hop began to speak out against Nicki's behavior, calling it petty and unprofessional. As the days went on, it became clear that the feud had turned into a cautionary tale of how celebrity drama, fueled by social media and fan culture, could escalate to dangerous levels. This wasn't just a feud between two women. It was a reflection of the darker side of fame, where personal grudges and industry politics could have real-world consequences. As the feud dragged on, one thing became clear. Both Nicki and Sza had become symbols of different sides of the music industry. One where power, control, and legacy were constantly at stake, and the other where resilience, growth, and focus on artistry shone through. The fallout from their feud would leave a mark on both of their careers. But it also showed fans and the industry the high cost of public battles and the lasting impact of unchecked fan culture.